The one thing I feared most of anyone finding out about my life. And what I decided to do to help me own my story, and then it eventually led to helping many others to do the same. My name is Tabitha Christopher of TabithaChristopher.com. If it's your first time watching any one of my live broadcasts, welcome. I'm so glad that you are here. My company founded the Mind Style Makeover Bootcamp. It is a character and resilience building training program for students in college and high school, providing them with a roadmap to succeed academically, athletically, socially, and emotionally. Tonight, I'm going to be sharing what's going on. Okay, so I got some friends coming on here on Instagram. So you guys, just let you know, I'm live on multiple platforms. So hello. He said, who is that? Okay, I see Madame's Madame, and I'm trying to see the face on the picture. I can't see it. I can't see the face. Please put your name in the comments, and I guarantee when she does, I'm gonna go crazy. All right, so everyone that's tuning in, I want to thank you all so much for tuning in tonight. We're gonna have the most amazing conversation. I'm so thrilled to share with you this one thing. I knew it. I knew it was Belinda. Hi, Belinda. I told you guys I was gonna go crazy. I knew it. I knew it. How you doing? Like we've known each other from years. Okay, years. Hello. Okay. So you're gonna have an amazing conversation tonight because this is something that for a very long time I could remember as if though it was yesterday, where I would come on here to do live conversations on my old Facebook page and whatever other social media platform was out there. Periscope was one of them. And I was working through sharing my story. And I can remember vividly when I would get to certain points in the story, although I had told it multiple times, I would have to take a moment of pause. And I would look back at some of those videos, not often, but whenever I did, I had a sour look on my face of great concern as I would go into revealing to you the one thing that I was most afraid of anyone finding out about my story. Here it is. For a very, very, very long time, I was convinced. I was convinced that everyone else's life beside my own and my family, everybody else's life was perfect. Because everybody else, when they stepped outside, just like me and my family, we learned to put on face, or I should say, my siblings and I were told we had to put on face. We couldn't walk around with our faces looking long or hinting that something at home just wasn't going as great as could be. Now, here's the thing. Every single one of us, hey, Erica, every single one of us from every walk of life, we have experienced challenges at home. None of us, of course, I learned this after I started to share my story. Nobody anywhere in the world can claim to have had the most perfect childhood. There are some that have had happy childhoods, fantastic, love hearing those stories, they're inspiring. And then there's others of us that did not have so much of a very happy childhood. Some of us had some pretty crazy things happen, right? Well, for me, one of those things was physical abuse that was happening at home. And I knew it wasn't normal because it didn't start out that way growing up. No, I could remember vividly the first 6 years of my life, I would equate to being perfect. All right. I would equate to being perfect. And then one Sunday morning, a shift took place. And I got to see a side of my dad that I had no clue existed. And that side, to say the least, was very scary. So scary to the point of where I knew at 6 years old that if we did not do something to leave this situation, it would then end up with someone or more than one of us no longer existing. You see, my dad grew up in physical abuse, alcoholism, then stuff like that. Now, my dad never drank alcohol. He never engaged in any of that, but he still had a lot of pent up rage inside of him. That, unfortunately, whenever he didn't have a good day at work, or whenever there was some kind of dispute that took place between himself, tenants, or himself and his parents, that frustration was felt by the rest of us, my mother, myself, my siblings. Mainly my mother, my sister, and myself. And I can remember at 6 years old when that one incident took place. It, in so many ways, caused me to freeze in time. And as situations continue to get worse and worse and worse, I could only start thinking of other ways to help the situation out because it seemed as if though my mother at the time was not fully aware of the magnitude and seriousness of the situation until I had a conversation with her at 11 years old when I had had enough and I was no longer going to stay quiet about the toxicity and the dangers of life at home. I was going to do something about it. And what I was going to do was not good. Okay? It was not good. But as an 11-year-old girl, believing that the only choice that I had in order to keep the family's pride intact by keeping our secrets behind closed doors as what was requested was to then handle things behind closed doors, and it was not going to end well. And when I had that conversation with my mother with full conviction, she then knew that something had to be done before she lost her whole family. Trailblazer, for many years, I was convinced that I would never share with any of you, anyone, the horrors of what took place behind closed doors as a child. I remember going to this one school for a short period of time. It was a public school in the Virgin Islands where I'm from. And when I witnessed the treatment towards certain classmates of mine and I saw what they were going through, then I knew at that point, okay, everybody, and I say everyone, I said certain people are experiencing worse than what myself, my siblings, my mom are going through. So there really isn't anything to complain about. This is just something that we have to figure out on our own, which is another mistake to think that. Is to think that whenever we're going through something that's hard, something that's scary, something that we don't know what to do in those situations, that we have to figure it out on our own. It's one of the worst things of what we could ever believe because oftentimes when we're in dire situations, it's difficult to think rationally on what to do that's going to benefit the whole. Well, anyways, fast forward Fast forward, and I am still living with suppressing many of those incidences that took place in childhood, holding it close and dear to my heart, embedded within my mind, as a reminder to help me to gauge whenever I could possibly be in a situation that would lead to similar experiences of what I faced growing up. And that would help me to know what it was I needed to do in those moments. But as I was doing that, suppressing all of those secrets and the pain, the anger that was still there, that was not dealt with, and I was aware. No one else was aware because what I showed on the outside was happy go lucky, always in a great mood, always trying to please or entertain and deflect away from the secrets, deflect away from anyone taking a second glance at me and looking beyond the mask and seeing what I did not want anyone to see, which was a wounded, a wounded young woman who wanted desperately to breathe without without the bone shattering pain of built up anxiety, of built up always trying to think way ahead for every situation that could possibly happen. I was hardly, well, never really living in the present moment because I was trained from young to always think several hours to several days out of the worst scenario. Worst case scenario, this happens. If this happens in this situation, this is what needs to be done in order to make sure this person is taken care of. And if that doesn't happen, and if that happens, my mind was always going 100 miles per hour, trying to figure out and solve problems that had not yet happened, just so I could be ready in the event it did take place to help to mitigate and make sure the situation didn't end up as bad as what it could. So I continued that same process of thinking, which I will say this. I will say that those that forward thinking in many cases in my adult life helped to save my life in certain situations that I ended up in naively. We'll talk about those in another live. However, to be sharing this portion of my life with you tonight, like I said earlier, I can remember when the thought of even trying to think through that Sunday morning when I was 6 years old would send me into straight panic attack, as if the situation was happening all over again. Now, Trailblazer, I don't know how many of you have things in your life that you have kept hidden, that you have kept back in the closet, those skeletons way far back in the closet, and you're hoping to God that no one ever gets close enough to be able to see beyond the mask that you put up so that they don't see the fears and insecurities that you have around whatever that challenge, whatever that situation is. Whether it's a life-threatening situation, whether it's a career change, whether it's just not believing that you're not where you should be based on societal norms, whatever that bull crap is, okay? Because one thing that I have been learning in this process of owning is that the journey of which we are on is, again, you've probably heard it so many times, is unique to you. And it's also unique to what it is you're going to choose to do with what has been given to you in your hands. For a very long time, I chose to allow for the fear of anyone finding out that my life was far from perfect. That I was still holding on to so much of the pain from my past. And the majority of the decisions that I was making in my life was based on proving my worth to the one that for a very long time made me feel like I should have never been born. And I was being driven by rage, driven by frustration, that was then turning into bitterness and resentment and was preventing me from actually living. It led to toxic stress buildup within my systems, which then led to me coming close to losing my life on different occasions. Trailblazer. One of the things that kept me for a very long time, that I was convinced that I would never share any of this with anyone ever in my life, was I was afraid of bringing shame to my family, specifically my mother, my sister, my brothers. I was also afraid at the time, when I had certain people in my life, for some reason, they just was curious to want to know more about my story, and it was so annoying. It was annoying. Okay, I was doing my best to keep people at not arm's length, like a full 5'8.5" length away from me, right? I'm like, yeah, just see the smile, hear the laughs, catch the jokes, this and that. Let me tell you a story, a fictional story, or maybe let me just pay attention to everyone else's stories, and I'll tell you everyone else's. Just don't pay attention to me. Don't. My story doesn't matter. Don't look too hard in my direction, because you may not like what you find out. Therefore, you may not accept me. Was a narrative that I had embedded in my mind and into my soul. So I pushed away many relationships throughout my journey for fear of being found out, for having a life far from perfect, which to me equated not being worthy of being accepted. I was afraid of sharing anything to anyone, for greater fear that it would make the situation at home more dangerous for everyone. Now, here's what I learned about owning my story. When I made the decision to stop running and start doing the very thing of what I was created for, which was to tell my story, and how I came to that finding, I share in my book, Secrets, the Book of Destiny. It's quite fascinating how I came to learn that that was my created purpose. Isn't that funny? The very thing I was most afraid of ever doing and I vowed I would never do is the very thing that I learned was what I was put here to do. And I share about that in my book, Secrets, the Book of Destiny, which you can get access to on Amazon.com. So, what I learned, three things that I learned about when I made the decision to stop running and own my story. What I learned was this: number one, choosing to learn to own my story. Hey, Harvey, it helped others to do the same with theirs. I didn't think that. I didn't even realize that. I didn't even realize that my choosing to not tell my story, hello, Harvey, right? My choosing to not tell my story was causing for others to not tell theirs, to not own theirs. But the moment I started to share, the moment I started to learn how to own through the process of sharing and telling over and over again and getting my own fear and insecurities out of the way, and I did it for the sake of others. I stopped thinking so much about myself and what it would do to my family. And when I started to tell my story, do you know what happened? Trailblazer. The situation at home didn't get worse. Because light was shed into those dark places, things started to get better. Was it easy? No. Oh no. It was very, very hard. It's very challenging. It's a lot of ups and downs, lots of bumps and bruises. A lot of stuff took place in that process. Sure did. Wasn't easy. It was pretty daunting, to say the least. However, situation at home got better. The relationship that I thought was done for the rest of my existence in life improved tremendously over the years as I continued to tell my story and learn how to own my story. And as I'm doing that, other people were learning how to do the same thing. So that's one of the three things. Other people started to learn how to own their story. Come on, right? So let's go. The second thing is that I learned about the power of owning my story is that it helped to eliminate toxic stress buildup. You see what happens when when you keep on holding on to all the things that happen to you, or you're pointing the finger and blaming other people for the insecurities that you are having because of your own core beliefs, because of the narrative that you have written in your mind about yourself and about other people, right? What is it doing? What is it doing? It actually is affecting your physical well being. I didn't know that. I'm gonna be real with you. And I worked in the health and fitness industry for well over 2 decades. Yeah, yeah, I don't look that old, but I am. Okay. Developing programs and man, I was ignoring so many things for myself because I just didn't want to have to face and deal with my own stuff. You guys understand what I'm saying? You understand what I'm saying? All right. So learning how to own my story, it also helped to improve my physical health. That was incredible. That was incredible. I had so much things going on in my health. So much things going on. And from the outside looking in, no one could tell because I've been an athlete my whole life. I've always consistently been training. I mean, I just I love training. Just always loved it. And also exercise was my way to avoid a lot of the stuff. So from the outside looking in, everyone would think that I was tip top healthy, nothing wrong with me. But there was a lot of stuff going on, right? But the moment I learned how to own my story, a lot of that stuff, the stress bumps that were popping up on the left side of my back that were the size of grapes, right behind my heart. It was nasty, it was painful. The fainting spells, the chest pains that were so intense that, and the chest pains, and then there would be electricity running down my left arm, going right back up, and it would go down the left side of my body. Sometimes it would take me down to my knees, and I would have to go to the restroom slowly, and I would just have to sit there and just wait, hold, breathe for all of that to subside so no one would see, no one would know, right? That stuff, no more issues with that. The third thing that happened when I learned how to own my story is it was a huge fear buster, a huge fear buster. So relationships that I pushed away because I didn't want anyone getting too close and finding out what was behind the veil, what was behind my mask of what I didn't want anyone to know. The things I was most insecure about. When I learned to own my story, it busted up the fear, right? Fear no longer was able to have control in areas that it had control of for so many years. And what I'm super excited about, hey, Natalie, what I'm super excited about, hey, this is so good. I know who this person is. I just cannot remember. Ben Telenor, welcome, welcome. What I'm super excited about is what I've developed in my company with the Mind Style Makeover Bootcamp for students in college and high school, for them to get access to these tools that will help them to navigate through challenges personally, professionally, because in any area we are going to have to work on us so that we can better show up in the relationships that we are privileged to be a part of. Yes, you heard me. We are privileged to be a part of, we're privileged to serve, and we're privileged to impact. Will we always get it right? Will we always get it right, Trailblazer? No, we won't. That's why we need help. That's why we need each other, to build each other up in love and good works, to remind ourselves of who we are when we're faced with life storms, personally and or professionally, right? So I developed the Mind Style Makeover Bootcamp to provide students with the roadmap to thrive inside and outside the classroom. And then coming up this fall, because of request by trailblazing parents, trailblazing professionals and leaders within their respective industries, I'm going to be having my first company produced Own Your Story event coming up in the fall, where I will be providing professionals and leaders like you and I um, access to the tools that incredible trailblazing students are getting access through my Mind Stop Makeover Bootcamp. If you have not, if you are not a part of my Trailblazer tribe, I will encourage you to get a part of it. You just have to go to my website, www.tabithachristopher.com. And don't worry, I'll be reminding you guys to go to my website to join the Trailblazer tribe and select that you want access to the Thrive newsletter. So it's a newsletter that comes out every month that will give you updates of what is coming up for future events that you definitely want to be a part of. And just so you know, okay, the events that I have the opportunity to put on to serve fellow trailblazers like yourself, they're always amazing, fire, off the chain, high energy, and most importantly, they're transformative. They're events of which you love to always remember. Always remember, because you're provided with practical tools, strategies that you can implement right away into your life so that you can own your story, power up your health, and thrive personally and professionally. So if you're interested in getting access to that information, just simply DM me wherever you're watching this live video, or visit my website, www.tabithachristopher.com, to join my Trailblazer tribe. Make sure you select you want to get access to the Thrive newsletter so you don't miss when the registration opens up for the Own Your Story event coming up this fall. God bless, and I look forward to chatting with you guys soon.